rebel comes screaming, we always holler back to 'em.
This is for House District 84. We have Bob Morris, who's the incumbent, and we have a representative for Michael Miranda, as Michael had a previous commitment. He was here earlier for just a little bit, just to say hello, and then he had to take off. The first thing that we'll do is have each candidate give a 4-minute talk, introduce themselves, and then we'll field some questions which we have gotten over the internet and from many of you who wrote them down earlier. Stand up and so everybody can see you. And
is this thing gonna whistle at me?
I will.
Much appreciated. Thanks to everyone for coming tonight. It means a lot, and especially your club and what you stand for. My name is Bob Morris. I'm a representative from the 84th District. We just finished up session last week. Got myself reacquainted with my 7 children. My kids range from 14 years old down to 6 months old. And I'm active right now in helping them coach Little League and softball. It's good to be home. As I talk much down at the Capitol, we are definitely in a crisis situation. And one thing that you hear from a lot of candidates, including myself, is jobs. We need to bring more jobs to the state of Indiana and to maintain the Hoosiers that we have, to ensure that they have good paying jobs. But in order to do this, I feel, and many people that come down to the Capitol to meet with me, we have to have a strong National Guard. And as I'm down at the Capitol and talking to my fellow colleagues, as I start stressing to them how important it is that we maintain the funding for our National Guard. And right now, the budget for our National Guard is about $600 million a year, and 99% of that comes from the federal government. So my first 4 years now in office, what I hear more than anything from people is, Representative Morris, you can't do that because the federal government prohibits that. And in 1903, a senator from Ohio basically pulled the National Guards away from the states and took it to Washington, D.C. So $12 million comes from our state treasury. But in reality, and I know you all know this, Hoosiers are paying the $600 million. But it has to go through Washington, D.C. and then come back to our state. And that bothers me a lot. So as I continue discussions with our Ways and Means Chairman, Chairman Brown, he said no other representative really brought this to his attention, the way the Guard is funded. So I have a piece of legislation that I'll bring out next year in regards to, right now it says in law that money that's designated for the National Guard will revert back into the general fund, and I'm going to stop that and put non-reverting in there, so the money will start growing for our Guard. And the reason why I got really interested in the National Guard and its funding is because when I was first elected, the federal government was shutting down, and I got contacted from soldiers from the 293rd that said they were at Camp Atterbury and they had no money to get home. And how are they going to get home? Because their Visa cards were not working to get home. They were notified for that. So if we have a strong Guard, I'm elected right now to represent the citizens of the state of Indiana. I don't represent, the other 49 states. It's the state of Indiana, so I feel it's my duty to make sure that Hoosiers are protected, and that's through our National Guard. And if we have a strong Guard and citizens are protected, I feel that more people would have come to the state of Indiana and realizing that we have the foresight here to make sure Hoosiers are protected. So then, therefore, we can enter the jobs area. And this year I authored some legislation to eliminate the business personal property tax. And I've spoken with a few people here tonight in regards to the tax structure and the way Indiana is. But by doing this year, and it's an option for the local governments to adopt this personal property tax exemption for businesses, we can plow more money back into the businesses and therefore hire more people. And if we offer this Last year I testified before the Ways and Means Committee. If we offer this, Hoosiers are going to stay here in Indiana. And in 2000, I was on the committee basically to try to minimize the brain drain here in Indiana. Being a recent college graduate, I wanted to ensure that my generation stayed here in Indiana. And by doing this with the business personal property tax, we can keep more Hoosiers here in Indiana and make sure that they're getting paid. The other thing that I was a champion of is Common Core, to ensure I was one of 5 representatives that went to the speaker to halt that last year and to keep the federal government out of our education. You want to talk about the Constitution with that, which he just mentioned, that the federal government has no place in our education here in the state of Indiana. So I look forward to spending more time with you and talking more about it. I don't think 4 minutes is long enough, but thanks again for coming out tonight.
Well said. 4 minutes is never long enough. And now we have a representative for Michael Miranda, Mr. Torres.
Good evening. My name is Jim Torres, and I am not a politician, so bear with me here. I'm not used to giving any speeches or anything like that. I'm just a real estate broker. Michael asked me to give you his statement this evening, so I'll read this for you. I want to thank the members of the 912 group for the opportunity to meet with your membership. I notified Mr. Wilkins when he invited me to this forum 2 weeks ago. I was fortunate to have a constituent invite me into her home, along with several of her friends and neighbors. I had committed to her open house several weeks ago. As much as I would like the opportunity to answer the questions of your membership, I'm sure you can appreciate the commitment that I have to my constituents. Indeed, I intend to be a representative of the people. My commitment is to the constituents, always. I've undertaken the task of going door to door to prove it. My constituents often ask why it is that I'm running for office. In short, I don't like where this country is headed right now, and I truly believe that I'm the one that can lead my generation in understanding the need to protect the liberties with which we grew up. The following quote from Ronald Reagan summed it up nicely. Freedom is a fragile thing and is never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation, for it comes only once to a people. Those who have known freedom and then lost it have never known it again. All too often our liberties are taken for granted, and nowhere is this more true than in a recession. During times when government should be ever vigilant over tax dollars, instead government uses opportunities to overreach in the name of job creation in the form of big government and bigger debt. Along with that come more government programs, regulation, and entitlements. We are now at the precipice of the next great threat to liberty, an up-and-coming generation of young voters that were weaned on big government, reared on the notion that the American dream isn't the opportunity to advance in social status through innovation and hard work, but rather socialized healthcare and education. The American dream now means that anyone should be able to own a home, even if they can't afford to pay for it. I am a conservative candidate with an unquestionable commitment to all the facets of our community. It is well known that community is divided into 3 sectors, public, private, and nonprofit. I've had the unique opportunity to serve all 3. I have served the public sector on various boards, commissions, and task forces, even a clerk in the Allen Superior Court. Most recently, I was appointed by the city and county to participate on the Joint Permitting Oversight Board. The responsibility was to oversee the process of untangling the complex web of government bureaucracy and inefficiencies that littered our development process discouraged growth. I oversaw the implementation of our streamlined permitting process. I have testified before our city council. I have worked on public policy research and development. In the nonprofit sector, my service is vast. I have served various boards and volunteer on even more. My service in the philanthropic arena is a glimpse into my fiscal policy bias. I serve on the boards of 2 large foundations and have overseen the grant making of millions of dollars of awards in our community. Whereas some people rely on government entitlement programs, I strongly believe that most of our human needs issues can be addressed through private giving in the nonprofit sector. Nonprofit organizations are a reflection of their private sector counterparts competing for dollars to provide the most efficient and effective return on the investment of the donors. In the private sector, I am a successful attorney with Berkeley, Dixon, Sutton, and Bloom, a skilled trial attorney that has represented businesses and individuals, fighting for positive results in the courtroom, but also working to resolve issues where such resolutions meet the client's desires. On a daily basis, I have the opportunity to work with business struggling with financial problems and disputes. Most notably, I've appeared before trial courts, appellate court, and Supreme Court representing clients. I know and understand the law. My time's up.
Thank you. Mr. Torres, are you going to stay here? Would you like to try to answer some of the questions for Mr. Branda?
No, I can try, yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, the first question is from Sue Richards. Start with Mr. Morris. What is your stance on township government, and do you think it is a vital branch, and do you see it in future years in the state of Indiana?
I believe it is a vital part of our government, and as my father states, it's one of the closest forms of government that he can go to, and that's why he is running for St. Joseph Township trustee. Gotta give him a plug there, right? So I'm for township government.
I think that Michael would agree with probably most of that, but he doesn't have anybody running for that position.
Expenses. Paying for liabilities such as teachers, police, fire, pensions. And would you favor cash flow or accrual accounting?
Well, that's one nice thing with being in the state of Indiana, that we need to operate with a balanced budget, and that came about because of the Wabash Area Canal debacle, that our forefathers never saw that the canal would freeze in the winter, so it caused Indiana to go bankrupt, and now we have a balanced budget here in Indiana. So as far as the pensions go, it's something that I've had discussion with, again, with our Ways and Means chairman, but we definitely need to ensure that they're fully funded, and our teachers are our most valuable asset in educating our kids, and they need to know that they're fully funded.
I'm probably going to have to defer some of these questions to Michael for a later time. I know where he stands on quite a few issues, but I'd rather wait.
That is perfectly fine. I can have these questions typed up and sent to Michael, and then if he wants to put his replies on the Fort Wayne 912 website, maybe that would help a little bit. And Bob, I'm going to have to open that up to you. Question number 3 is from Robert Brown. How interested are you in the Christian conservative vote, and to what extent are you prepared to go after it?
Well, interesting enough in saying that I do go to church on a regular basis. I'm a Christian, and when I make my decisions at the Capitol, and many people discuss this with me, it's hard to take away what's here and making a good moral decision. So I always try to follow my moral compass.
I think you have the floor.
All right. You got it.
Question number 4. This is from John Brown. What is your position regarding invocation of state sovereignty under the 10th Amendment in response to legislative or regulatory disregard by the federal government for citizens' rights under the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments?
All the above. We have to, in looking at Indiana, and being flush in our rating, but to look at that we are part of a union, being part of the United States, but we're in great financial shape. But I believe that our fellow states are weighting us down, and states' rights, I'm very big into that. But to look at how, again, I mentioned this earlier, so I guess I'll talk about it now since we're not going to have any comments here. But to look at everything that I've done in the 4 years and that the roadblocks with unemployment where if you're an employer, you actually pay unemployment insurance on your person, but you will never be able to collect unemployment. So that's a strike, and I try to correct that, and I'm going at it with the commissioner with unemployment. He said, well, if we adopt your current legislation, and we're going to lose millions of dollars with unemployment, and we're going to have major liability. So one thing that I found, and I told a few assistants at the Capitol, I'm going to write a book about everything that I've tried to do, but I can't because federal law prohibits it. So I'm getting sideways here as far as the question goes, but I'm very big on states' rights and to make sure that Indiana is standing strong.
Mr. Torres, want to give it a try?
No, not really, but I would like to say that to give Michael a fair shake since he wasn't able to make it here tonight. If Bob would be willing to debate with Michael, I think he would certainly welcome that opportunity, and I think you as members of the group here would probably appreciate a debate between the two of them.
And that's why we're here tonight.
Question number 5. This is from Judy Ross. Would you support or oppose joining other states with an Article 5 Convention of States?
Support.
Please explain your position.
Well, in looking at with Obamacare and the federal regulations that come about us, we have to stand up and we have to stay strong and say, hey, we are a state, one state out of 50. And you have to respect that we are a state. And what I find more on the federal level is I wish that Washington, D.C., more congressmen would do that. Stand up and say that you need to respect our state's rights.
Mr. Torres? Question number 6. This is from Dan Teely. Would you support an amendment to the Indiana Constitution which states that life begins at conception?
Yes, I would support an amendment, and I actually supported the marriage amendment this year in its entirety. And I supported the way it got sent over to the Senate also with marriage between one man and one woman.
Question number 7. What is your position on the recent marriage amendment resolution? And that's what happens when you don't read the questions beforehand. Let's skip to question number 8. Give us your opinion of the conduct of the current House Speaker and Senate President in the General Assembly during the last 2 legislative sessions. Do you see any need for changes?
Our leader, Speaker Bosma, has done, I believe, a great job in trying to get us in the right direction. And with the marriage amendment, I was very disappointed, but one thing with our Speaker is he does not force a vote from someone. And being one of the 43 that actually stood strong on the marriage amendment is a great example. I've been through quite a few rough waters with right to work and supporting right to work, and also school choice and bringing vouchers to the state of Indiana. So I believe that, at least on my side, and speaking from Speaker Bosma, it's been good to work with him.
This is from Pat Plesh. What are your thoughts on the idea of passing a law that would grant in-state college tuition to illegal immigrants? That's undocumented aliens, for those of you from Rio Linda.
So who did you say is going to pay for them? My grandparents came here, great-grandparents came here from Luxembourg, and their names are on the wall out at Ellis Island. And I'm a big believer in following the proper guidelines and getting to our country. And I'd love to see Ellis Island open back up where they process each of the people that land here in our country, and to talk about our borders on the north, south, east, and west, and watching people come into our country. But very important, again, to look at the state of Indiana and what I represent and what these illegal people are doing to our state and our economy, and to look at where unemployment would be if we did not have any illegal people here. They're taking jobs from Hoosiers currently, and I'm against it.
Question number 10 is another one from Dan Teely. It's really great that many of you are members of the NRA, which anyone can donate $35 to become a member. How many of you own at least one firearm, and when was the last time you went target shooting?
It's kind of a personal question, but I am happy to be sitting up here looking at all of you. And if you'd like to go hunting with me, let me know. I love to hunt in the fall. No, shotgun.
Question 11 is from Judy Ross. Allen County is considering restructuring their makeup, eliminating a county council and changing to a county administrator. Do you think this is a good idea, and why or why not?
Back to the other question, I'd be happy to go target shooting with anyone, and I do actually. Governor Pence has a annual skeet shoot that he does every spring that I've participated in. Also, I'm very pro-gun in regards to that. The single county executive, extremely interesting debate down at the House. I wish we could have heard more of the debate, and I heard from a number of council members as well as commissioners in regards to the single county executive, and looking at our current setup with our current legislative aspect of county council, and expanding that and looking at nine seats across the county and having one executive. So I personally feel that people will be better represented with the 9 new legislative sections. So it'll be interesting to see if it passes the referendum come this fall, because we put it in the hands of the voters to decide on that. So I believe it's a more efficient government in the proposal and the way it's set up.
This question is from Sam R. When reviewing or proposing law, do you consider yourself more of a social conservative or a limited government conservative?
More of a limited government, I'd say, overall, and looking at the legislation that comes across my desk. My voting record proves that.
From Frank Luard, one thing I would like to hear is, what is the status of our recovery compared to the state of Wisconsin? Frank says he just read the interview of Governor Scott Walker by Rush Limbaugh. In spite of all the attempts to dethrone Governor Walker, including death threats, Governor Walker succeeded, and the state has almost $1 billion surplus, and the pension fund is fully funded. The naysayers are convinced that Governor Walker knew what he was doing, and they are now in support of him. Do you think that Indiana is learning from this, or are we going to try to reinvent the wheel?
I think a lot of legislators we're always watching and reading what other states are doing. So we need to learn from other states, and like I say, and we haven't touched on any Common Core questions, but I want to make sure that we're the best state all the way around, and if we need to look at our neighbor to see what they're doing, I want to do it that much better.
This question is from Tom Metzger. Have you read the Indiana Constitution, and if so, where does it allow replacing the system of government in one specific county?
That's a good question. I don't believe it says it anywhere. in there in regards to that. But to look at the constitutionality of it, and I read an article that someone wrote in regards to this I believe the point he's getting at, and if he's here, to direct that when we vote on a piece of legislation out at the Capitol, you cannot designate one single sector of Indiana and to pass it that way. So to look at voting on a specific county, like Allen County, with the single county executive and the constitutionality of it, we're leaving it in the hands of the people to decide on the specific referendum.
Since the federal government has become far overreaching and nothing appears to be changing in Washington, what would you do to protect the freedoms of Hoosiers?
Like I believe I said that in my opening statement, as far as making sure that our National Guard is 100% funded, and that these Hoosiers that pledge to the governor of the state of Indiana, that they are fully funded, and to ensure that if the federal government fails, that these soldiers will be paid to protect Hoosiers.
We have about 10 more minutes before we take a break. I would like to give each person a chance to say some concluding remarks, about 4 minutes each, and then Mr. Torres can read the rest or more of Mr. Branda's statement, if that's okay. Bob, you can start.
Or if you want to, I went first, you go first.
All right. I'll just finish with what I wrote about Michael. State representatives have a tremendous responsibility to advocate for their constituents and uphold the values of our community. Michael brings a great resume and passion for his people to the State House. I know this because I met him while he was engaging the Realtor Association to learn more about how he can work with us to make our community better. Right now he's meeting with constituents that he's never met before because they invited him into their home. If he's willing to put in this kind of effort now, imagine how well he will serve once elected into office. Whether the issues are nullification, Common Core, or fiscal policy, it is extremely important that we elect the best and most qualified candidates. Candidates that will be thoughtful and strong without being divisive and reactionary. Michael is that candidate. We ask for your support.
Again, to thank all of you for coming here tonight. It really means a lot to talk to true patriots and people that care about the state of Indiana and our country as a whole. And I always take a time to thank our veterans and those men and women that have served our country, and those men and women that have lost their life for us also. And my grandfather taught me that before he passed away, to always thank a veteran. But one thing that I'm surprised that no one's really asked the question in regards to education, but to look at our current status with the state of Indiana and those many people that have given a lot of time in studying our standards here in Indiana, and these Common Core standards that kind of came out of nowhere and kind of just came up and like a brick wall and said, hey, we're here to stay. And so many people that called my office and met with me and opposed these standards as well as I did, and learning more and more about them. But to look at Indiana standards and to make sure that our students are well prepared for any walk of life that they do, whether it's a 4-year school, whether it's a 2-year school, Ivy Tech. The more I learn about our Ivy Tech and the 2-year programs that they offer, even a